Now, it could be that she's just like clinically stupid. Is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez mentally unstable?
Mr. Reagan.
Collagen product sales are spiking, and for good reason. Collagen is revered for giving skin its strength and elasticity, along with its power to reduce wrinkles. This isn't just hearsay. There are thousands of studies that support this, and that's true. You can look that up. If you want a more youthful appearance, you should regularly take collagen supplements, but there's a problem. Typical collagen supplements that you find on the store shelves sometimes don't work very well because they're filled with cheap, low-quality collagen, which leave users unsatisfied when they don't see results. That's why I love BioTrust's multi-collagen. This stuff right here. This is the best anti-aging solution on the market with the highest quality collagen blends for our bodies to look and feel younger. Within days of trying multi-collagen, users report noticing a more youthful appearance, decreased wrinkles, thicker hair, healthier nails, and pain-free joints. And that's why I take this stuff myself for joint health. I also get a drug infusion every 6 weeks, but certainly I'm convinced this multi-collagen here is a critical part of maintaining healthy joints for someone like me with chronic joint problems. I absolutely recommend multi-collagen from BioTrust. Try it today for 51% off by going to healthwithreagan.com or click on the link in the description below. Okay, so why am I saying this? Why am I saying this? I started to wonder about this after the January 6th protest, right? During this protest, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez freaked out. She freaked out. She was like hiding in her bathroom when a Capitol police officer was looking for her to try to tell her where to go. And she thought that these were protesters coming to kill her.
I'm like, I'm going to get us an amazing lunch. I'm going to get us a banging lunch. When all of a sudden I hear boom, 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 boom on my door. I hear these huge, violent bangs. Bang, bang. Like someone was trying to break the door down. G just looks at me back and he just goes, hide, hide. I jump into the bathroom when all of a sudden I hear that whoever was trying to get inside got into my office. And then I just start to hear these yells. Where is she? Where is she? And so I hide behind my door like this, like I'm here. I thought everything was over. And then all of a sudden I hear, it's okay, come out. And this man is a Capitol police officer.
And so she had this kind of weird panic attack and she freaked out and she thought this guy was trying to kill her or something like that. And when she recounted the story, she seemed to think that this Capitol police officer was not actually trying to help her, that he was actually somehow in cahoots with the protesters or something like that. And she was trying to put her life in danger. It was like the weirdest thing.
And this man is a Capitol police officer. But then it didn't feel right because he was looking at me with a tremendous amount of anger and hostility.
She's clearly somehow paranoid, right? She's clearly a paranoid person. If you watch her whole story, she talks in very specific detail about how she was hiding and looking through this, between the door and the wall and trying to make sure that, that she wasn't going to be killed and all this kind of stuff. And it was like, you weren't actually in any danger. Why are you should be embarrassed by having been scared of this because there wasn't any insurrectionists there. Like you weren't even anywhere near the Capitol. You were like a 10-minute walk from the Capitol in your own office, somewhere that none of the protesters had any idea where you even were. And you're like panicking. And then she went ahead and she walked to another building, found a friend of hers, hid in her office where once again there were no protesters, and she panicked there as well, and she like freaked out there as well, and she was going on this long rant about how she was panicked the whole time and freaking out. This is obviously irrational, right? This is not a sensible reaction to what happened. The January 6th protesters didn't kill anyone. They did. As far as I'm concerned, as I'm aware, the protesters didn't seriously injure anyone. Right, there was one protester who was killed by Capitol Police, which was a huge overreaction. I think that police officer needs to be investigated. Of course, Capitol Police are like, nope, didn't do anything wrong. He's perfect. He's fine. Murdering somebody is perfectly fine if you're a police officer. Murder is fine. Not if you're a black drug dealer. Was George Floyd a drug dealer? What was he? Some kind of criminal. Where was I? Oh, yeah, the AOC thing. She's proving to be even crazier than we thought. I know I covered the Marjorie Taylor Greene thing recently. AOC and Marjorie Taylor Greene seem to have some kind of a rivalry going. Marjorie Taylor Greene obviously doesn't like AOC. She doesn't like the Green New Deal. She thinks that AOC needs to be able to Instead of constantly just going on social media and hosting press conferences and speaking in situations in which she's very comfortable, Marjorie Taylor Greene is like, no, you need to be able to defend your policies against somebody who actually doesn't like them, right? Who actually doesn't like you and doesn't like your policies, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene is somebody who, she's a tough person, right? And she thinks that AOC has to stand and defend her ideas against scrutiny, not against these reporters that will just roll over and agree with everything that she says, or, you know, on social media where she has nobody standing up to her or fighting back against her. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is like, stand up for your principles, stand up against me, and debate me, right? She's not saying let's go get in a fight in the back alley. She's saying let's have a debate. That's what politicians are supposed to do. And AOC is like, no, you're crazy. You're stalking me. Stalking. This is the word that they're using now. They're using the word stalking. If this isn't paranoia, I don't know what paranoia is.
Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez has shown tremendous restraint because it appears that the so-called Congresswoman from Georgia is stalking her.
This is a woman that's deeply unwell and clearly needs some help. Her kind of fixation has lasted for several years now.
She's like totally obsessed with me.
You're talking about a coworker in a discipline, in a profession in which you are supposed to debate ideas. That's what your profession is all about. Debating ideas, asking you to debate ideas, and instead of going, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and do that, or no, I'm scared of you because I think you're going to beat me, you instead turn around and you say, I think you're a scary stalker, and therefore I'm not going to debate you. This is her defense. This is her way of getting out of debating Marjorie Taylor Greene, is saying that she's a stalker. Now, this is either just a pathetic way of sneaking out of debating somebody who she thinks she's going to lose a debate to, or AOC is legitimately crazy, right? She's got some kind of paranoia, and it seems like it's at a level that is clinical, right? She's got a problem that's. Now, I've talked about this with several people, and they've said, no, you shouldn't say that about AOC. I don't think she's crazy, and maybe not, probably not. But I'm just not sure. So it's something I think does need to be brought up now. The most recent thing that's happened, or one of the more recent things that has happened, is this. AOC has revealed that she is now in therapy because of the January 6th protest. She's in therapy. She's going to see a psychiatrist. I don't think we should have people with significant psychological problems in Congress. I mean, we definitely have a few, Maxine Waters for one. But let's have a look here at this full article. So it says, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says she's in therapy following the all-out attempted coup at the Capitol on the 6th of January. Speaking to the weekly public radio show Latino USA on Friday, Ms. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said members of Congress effectively served in war during the traumatizing event.
And then you have this transition period of escalating violence, which really culminated on the 6th, for which was an extraordinarily traumatizing event that's not really being discussed. It's politically sensitive. No one wants to say, oh, boo-hoo. But there are members of Congress that served in war.
So she's actually equated her January 6th protest experience, where she was in two offices in which there was essentially zero danger of protesters even interacting with her, much less hurting her in any way. But she's convinced that she could have been kidnapped or murdered or worse. She's also claimed that some conservative members of the House of Representatives or the Senate actually helped the protesters to get into the Capitol building and try to find and either kidnap or hurt other members of Congress, Democrat members of Congress.
The president, assisted by members of Congress, incited an attack on the United States Capitol. This is known as an act of insurrection, an act of sedition. And frankly, he is a traitor to our country, a traitor to the United States.
These senators, Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, knew that violence depended on the lie that our elections were fraudulent. 5, 6 people have lost their lives. Others have lost eyes, limbs. Many more have been traumatized. And that's why we need accountability.
It is not an exaggeration to say that many, many members of the House were nearly assassinated. I thought I was going to die.
This is crazy. I mean, this is crazy. These are the things that she is proposing, that she is speculating about. She thinks there's this massive right-wing conspiracy, right? She's gone full Hillary Clinton.
The great story here, for anybody willing to find it and write about it and explain it, is this vast right-wing conspiracy.
And she thinks there's this massive right-wing conspiracy against her, trying to murder her, trying to murder Nancy Pelosi. I mean, it's like legit crazy town. And now she's saying that she has had the equivalent of, of a soldier in war having gone through that experience.
There are members of Congress that served in war.
So I guess she deserves the Purple Heart then, or something like that, right? The Medal of Honor. She's a veteran, guys. She's a veteran. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. She says, after the 6th, I took some time, and it was really Ayanna Pressley when I explained to her what happened, like the day of, because I ran into her office and she was like, you need to recognize trauma, Ms. Ocasio-Cortez said. Yeah, this is something that she talks about when she went through and she described in painful detail every moment of her terror. She didn't recognize this as a traumatic incident because she was just sort of dealing with the fact that she was kind of like freaking out about the January 6th protesters. She was freaking out. She goes and meets up with Ayanna Pressley. Ayanna Pressley says, this is a traumatic incident for you. You need to realize that.
It was when I told the story to Representative Pressley, she told me right away, like, what you experienced was traumatizing. Having her tell me that, it forced me to be like, oh.
Okay. If you don't realize that something's traumatized you, it might not have traumatized you. I think that when you've experienced something that is intense and you don't really think of it as traumatizing, and then someone tells you like afterwards, you've been traumatized, I think you can actually like brainwash yourself into thinking that, right? You can actually condition your brain into thinking, oh yes, I've been traumatized. Even though you haven't been traumatized. You know why? Because you didn't think you're traumatized until Ayanna Pressley told you were traumatized. You're like, yeah, you know what? I am traumatized. That's what this is. This is a trauma. Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Because you know what that does? That makes you feel special. Or at least I think that makes her probably feel special, right? It makes her feel like, you've given it a label, and it's a label that makes it a lot bigger than what it is. If you just say you kind of freaked out irrationally, well, that doesn't have the same impact as you experienced a traumatic incident, right? That makes it seem so much more significant. So she obviously wants to frame it that way. This is a trick that a lot of Democrats use, right? They'll use words to frame things in ways that it doesn't actually make sense, right? It's not appropriate for whatever it is that they're trying to describe. But what it does is it twists it in a way that's actually better for them. And so this is what she's doing, right? She's using language to try to frame what happened in a way that makes her look good or makes her the victim somehow. And those Democrats, they love being a victim. Again, I feel like if I was in a situation in which I thought I was in this massive amount of danger and I freaked out for several hours, and then I found out later that I was never actually in any danger at all, I would be a little bit embarrassed, right? I probably wouldn't tell people about it. But she's going all over the place telling anybody who'll listen. I was traumatized. A traumatizing experience. I thought they were going to kill me. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, they never even came close to where you were. Yeah, I know, but they're animals. They wanted to kill me. Actually, nobody had any intention of killing you or going anywhere near you. Nobody was even looking for you. Yes, no, but I think that they were. All right. Anyway, let's see here. Asked if she was in therapy, she replied, "Oh yeah, I'm doing therapy."
So you're doing therapy?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, let me look for something real quick because I just watched this awesome video with Dinesh, in which he's talking about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and what a loon she is. There we go. This is what I'm looking for. All right, I found it.
This was an all-out attempted coup. Mike Pence was taken out of the Senate chamber something like 60 seconds before these terrorists and insurrectionists got into the Senate chamber. 60 seconds could have meant potentially the difference between what we have right now in a martial state.
Dinesh D'Souza is interpreting what she's saying as to mean that actually the insurrectionists, quote unquote, right, the protesters on January 6th, could have like somehow kidnapped Mike Pence and then taken over the U.S. government or something like that. Maybe that's what she's thinking. And maybe that is what she's saying. But maybe she's saying that had the insurrectionists somehow killed Mike Pence or something like that, we would have gone into martial law or something, with Trump as president, because he would have had to lock down the country. And I'm not really sure exactly. He's probably right. Dinesh's probably right. The interpretation that he has is probably right, that AOC seems to think that the protesters, as insurrectionists, as she seems to think that they are, were in fact such a clear and present danger that they could very well have taken over the U.S. government that day. I mean, if she really thinks that, I mean, that's just beyond the realm of Looney Tunes. There's something weird about AOC. She is paranoid to a degree that it does seem like there's a mental problem there. Now, it could be that she's just clinically stupid. I mean, that's a possibility. I mean, that's what I think most people think. I think most people think she's so dumb that she just believes crazy stuff. And that's kind of what I thought for a long time. And to some degree, I kind of still do. It's still certainly within the realm of possibilities. But I don't know, man. I mean, most Democrat politicians, I think, well, once you get into it, once you're engaged in politics, you got to learn about all the stuff that's going on. If you're a Democrat, you can't really be a Democrat unless you are corrupt, right? Because you eventually do figure out, okay, simply looking at economics alone, you got to recognize that the Republicans are right on this stuff. If you're going to be a Democrat, you're going to make the country a worse place with your fiscal policy. That's just naturally going to happen if you follow these bizarre leftist ideas. Republican ideas are just going to improve the country. I mean, there's really no question about it. At least in terms of fiscal policy, there's no real question. We won that argument, I think, in the Reagan years, right? But moving past that to social issues, okay, yeah, there's a little bit more of a perspective that you need to have with that, right? So different people are going to have different perspectives. You're going to have to argue and debate that. Okay, I understand that. But I think that once you get into actual politics, you're an actual politician, and you've investigated this stuff and you've looked into it in the way that I have been able to, you realize that Democrat politicians don't really believe things in the same way their constituents do. How many politicians really care that much about green energy? How many of these politicians really care that much about the black community? How many of these politicians really care? I mean, honestly, do you think Maxine Waters cares about the black community? I don't. I don't think she cares about the black community at all. I think Maxine Waters cares about Maxine Waters. And I think once you get to know these people and once you get to know what the policies actually are and what their use is, and when you start talking in a more realistic way with some of these people in D.C., I think that they have to realize that it's all just political theater. Taking a certain political position is just a way of creating the illusion that you care, so that you get votes and you get power and you can make money and all this kind of stuff. It's what you might call posturing, right? Posturing to impress the people, virtue signaling, to impress the people that you need to vote for you, and you need certain support for certain ideas, for certain things that you want to do. As soon as Democrats got power, as soon as they got into the White House, as soon as they got Congress, what did? They immediately passed a bill full of pork so they could pay off their buddies. Nancy Pelosi was just yeah, she did a little flippin' dance. It was absolutely despicable.
The motion is adopted.
And now they want to pass another one. I think it's originally it was $2 billion. I think they got it down to 1.7 now. $1 billion infrastructure bill in which 6% is infrastructure. It's just full of pork, man. They're just trying to they're redistributing wealth, but not in the way that they say they are, right? They say they want to redistribute wealth let's take it from the rich and give it to the poor. We're like Robin Hood. No, you're not. You're taking from average Americans, good, hardworking Americans, and you're giving it to your Democrat friends who own corporations. You're just taking from the general public, Republicans and Democrats, and giving it to your Democrat buddies who paid for your re-election campaign or something like that. It is absolutely disgusting. I mean, the way the Democrats work is simply taking bribes. I mean, that's the whole thing. That's the whole system. Their whole system is corrupt. I don't know. These people need to be taken down. All right. Well, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys think AOC is legitimately crazy? Look, I don't. That's a pretty tough accusation. It's a pretty tough thing. I mean, I'm not saying I think she is. I'm just speculating that that's a possibility. And I don't want to believe that, but it's hard to think of anything else. She seems so paranoid about everything. She seems paranoid about January 6th. She seems paranoid about her colleagues, her Republican colleagues. She thinks people want to kill her. And she seems to think that Marjorie Taylor Greene is some kind of stalker who's obsessed with her. AOC, Nobody's obsessed with you, okay? Just because a couple of guys flirted with you when you were a waitress at a bar, that doesn't mean every guy is obsessed with you or Marjorie Taylor Greene is obsessed with you, okay? Nobody's obsessed with you. We're good, right? We just disagree with your ideas. So get over yourself and maybe have the courage of your convictions, stand up for what you believe, and actually debate somebody, right? Stand up there and defend your stupid Green New Deal, which you probably don't even know anything about. You probably never even read it, right? When Marjorie Taylor Greene asked her to debate her, apparently AOC said, well, did you even read it? My guess is AOC hasn't even read it. That's my guess. But I don't know. What do I know? Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. Maybe she's crazy. Maybe she isn't. Who knows? Anyway, I'd like to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section, so go ahead and let me know about that. Otherwise, I think we're done here.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening.